A forgotten grave in Britain holds no golden crown, yet a shadow king commands the world's imagination. For centuries, scholars accepted the majestic ruler of Camelot as historical truth. But beneath the romantic poetry lies a cold, startling reality revealed by modern spades. The Arthur we know never existed, yet someone undeniably held the line against total annihilation. We picture chivalrous knights in gleaming plate armor, majestic stone castles towering over misty valleys, and a magic sword pulled from a stone. This glowing medieval fantasy captured European court hearts during the Middle Ages. Yet this elegant imagery reflects 12th century French romance, completely detached from the brutal, unrefined reality of 5th century post-Roman Britain when the legend supposedly occurred. To find the real figure, we must travel back to the catastrophic 5th century. As Roman legions abandoned Britannia, civilization collapsed into violent anarchy. Hostile Anglo-Saxon tribes swept across the North Sea, torching cities and scattering native Celtic populations. In this apocalyptic dark age of smoke and ash, a desperate people desperately needed a savior to halt their utter destruction. The earliest direct literary reference to Arthur appears centuries after his supposed death, in a 9th century text called the Historia Brittonum. Attributed to a monk named Nennius, it lists 12 ferocious battles fought by Arthur, describing him not as a king, but as a dux bellorum, a military commander who personally slaughtered hundreds of invaders in single combat. However, earlier historians present a troubling, silence-filled mystery. Gildas, a 6th century monk writing during Arthur's supposed lifetime, vividly describes the decisive battle of Mount Badon that halted the Saxon advance. Yet Gildas never mentions Arthur by name. Why would a contemporary chronicler completely ignore the supreme hero of the age who supposedly saved his entire civilization from destruction? Clues thicken within the Welsh Easter Annals, compiled during the 10th century. This sparse chronicle explicitly records 2 tragic events: the Battle of Badon, where Arthur carried the cross of Christ upon his shoulders for 3 days, and the fatal Battle of Camlan, where Arthur and Medrawd both fell. These brief entries provide tantalizing historical anchors, yet mystery remains. The modest warlord transformed into an imperial legend thanks to Geoffrey of Monmouth in 1136. His wildly creative history of the kings of Britain invented Merlin, Excalibur, and Tintagel, transforming a gritty local chieftain into a world-conquering monarch. Geoffrey created brilliant propaganda, giving a divided nation an ancient heritage, but permanently blurring history with fiction. Seeking physical evidence beyond questionable ink, modern archaeologists turned their trowels toward the rugged Atlantic coastline of Cornwall. Here, perched precariously on dramatic, windswept cliffs, lie the imposing ruins of Tintagel Castle. Legend claimed this storm-battered promontory was Arthur's birthplace, prompting extensive scientific excavations into the deep, dark soil beneath the high medieval stone walls. Excavators uncovered evidence of a thriving 5th century trading hub, filled with luxury Mediterranean pottery, fine wine amphorae, and glass. Then, in 1998, a spectacular discovery sent shockwaves through the academic world: a broken slate bearing a Latin inscription from the 6th century. Written into the stone were the tantalizing words, Ardagnu, father of a descendant of Gaul. Sensational headlines immediately declared that archaeologists had discovered Arthur's signature carved in stone. However, linguistic analysis quickly shattered the sensationalist frenzy. Ardagnu translates to bear knowledge, a common Celtic name, not Arthur. While the slate confirms high-status post-Roman chieftains ruled at Tintagel, it offers no direct proof of the legendary king, leaving the primary mystery entirely unsolved. Undeterred, researchers turned toward Somerset, where a massive Iron Age hill fort named Cadbury Castle dominated the surrounding countryside. Local folklore had long identified this sprawling hilltop enclosure as the real location of Camelot. In the late 1960s, archaeologist Leslie Alcock launched an ambitious excavation project to unearth what truly lay hidden within its earthen ramparts. The spade revealed breathtaking evidence: Around 500 AD, right in Arthur's supposed era, a powerful warlord fortified Cadbury on a monumental scale. They constructed a massive timber rampart stretching over a mile and erected a colossal wooden timber hall. This was no peasant village. It was the formidable stronghold of an exceptionally wealthy, powerful British military leader. Meanwhile, 12 miles away at Glastonbury Abbey, medieval monks made an astounding claim in 1191. Digging between two ancient stone pyramids, they unearthed a deep wooden coffin containing huge human bones. Attached to a stone marker was a lead cross bearing a Latin inscription. Here lies buried the renowned King Arthur in the Isle of Avalon. Modern historical consensus views the Glastonbury discovery with extreme skepticism. The abbey had recently suffered a devastating fire, badly needing funds for reconstruction. Fabricating the tomb of Arthur attracted thousands of wealthy pilgrims and gained favor with King Henry II. The lead cross was almost certainly a brilliant, profitable 12th century forgery engineered by clever, desperate monks. If the tomb was fake, what about the bloody battles recorded in ancient chronicles? The site of Mount Badon, where native Britons crushed the Saxon army, remains hotly debated. Historians have proposed numerous locations across southern England, from Badbury Rings in Dorset to the majestic hills surrounding Bath, yet no undisputed battlefield debris has ever been found. The military reality of 6th century warfare differed drastically from medieval pageantry. Arthur was not a knight clad in shining steel plate, which did not exist for another 800 years. He would have been a late Romanized warlord, wearing leather, iron chainmail, and a spangenhelm helmet, leading heavy cavalry charges across muddy fields to protect his lands. Some scholars propose that Arthur was inspired by Lucius Artorius Castus, a 2nd century Roman officer who commanded heavy Sarmatian cavalry units stationed in Britain. His dramatic military victories and the dragon-headed cavalry banners carried by his troops closely match elements of the later legend. Yet Castus lived 3 full centuries before the Saxon invasions even began. Another compelling candidate is Riothamus, a 5th century king of the Britons recorded in late Roman historical documents. Riothamus crossed the English Channel with a vast fleet to fight the Visigoths in Gaul alongside Roman forces. Crucially, he was betrayed by a regional official and vanished into history near Burgundy, mirroring Arthur's fatal journey to the continent. Most modern historians now lean toward a composite figure theory. Rather than a single historical individual, Arthur is likely a brilliant mosaic forged from multiple real Dark Age leaders. The heroic exploits of several forgotten British commanders were gradually woven together over centuries of oral storytelling, creating an idealized, larger-than-life savior figure to inspire a conquered, suffering nation. This composite warlord represented the last gasp of classical civilization in Britain. As the Roman roads cracked and stone villas burned, local warlords fought desperately against the relentless tide of Anglo-Saxon migration. Though they ultimately lost the island, their stubborn resistance granted native Celtic culture time to survive in Wales, Cornwall, and Brittany, preserving their legendary stories forever. Archaeology shows us that the 5th and 6th centuries were defined by crisis, migration, and fortified hilltops, not romantic kingdoms. Yet the persistent search for Arthur revealed something far more fascinating than a single king. A forgotten epic of resilient survival, where post-Roman Britons adapted, fought, and preserved their identity against overwhelming geopolitical odds in a darkening world. The story of Arthur evolved because every era required its own version of the legend. To medieval Anglo-Norman kings, he justified imperial conquest. To Victorian writers, he represented noble morality and chivalry during industrial change. Today, high-tech non-invasive ground radar and carbon dating continue to re-examine Dark Age sites, constantly reshaping our understanding of this mythical golden age. When we strip away medieval fantasy and modern mythology, we find no golden throne or magic sword buried in the mud. Instead, Archaeology uncovers a shadowy, complex world of real Dark Age warriors fighting for their existence. Arthur may be a myth, but he is a myth constructed from genuine historical trauma, leadership, and unyielding human resistance. The true power of Arthur lies not in whether he wore a crown, but in what he came to symbolize. He is Britain's ultimate sleeping king, an eternal ember of hope during catastrophic times. Though spades may never find his grave, the ghost of Arthur continues to haunt the misty hills, ancient fortresses, and collective imagination of the world.